Hi everyone, welcome back. How have you guys been enjoying it so far? Oh, glad to hear this is the session you're excited for, Andy. So you just had a half-hour break. Who grabbed tea? Who grabbed coffee? And who grabbed water? What you grabbed to drink on? Oh, tea. Nice. Snacks. Yes, all about the snacks. Ooh, multitasking by getting some dishes done. Good work. Oh, cocktail. Nice. Oh, Instagram. Awesome, guys. Cool. I am going to test out sharing my screen. So let's make sure that this all works. Can everyone see my screen? Because I've done this before where it was me talking and nobody could see anything. Very cool. We'll give everybody 30 more seconds to log in here, get ready to go. I did a practice run of this talk earlier with some friends, and they told me there's a lot of talking. So we're going to definitely take some breaks in between my talking so I can ask you guys some questions. So get your fingers ready to be engaged. And we're definitely going to be covering a lot of material. If you haven't yet, you can click on the resource list. And there is one of my clients, Dragon Scale, has written quite a few books on AI that you can grab in the resource link, as well as I provided some resources for where you can get more information about regulations about AI. So, without further ado, let's start talking about implementing AI in accounting, my step by step guide. So, if you're wondering why I'm talking about it, here's a little bit about me. I'm Michelle Warden. I am a CPA as well as I have my HR designation, and I'm actually working on my doctorate right now. So I have 20 plus years working in finance and accounting, and I recently completed MIT's AI strategy and leadership program. And right now I'm also trying to complete my doctorate, and I'm doing a lot of research in leadership as well as integration of AI. So here is today's agenda. We are going to start off with introduction. So understanding what AI is, because there's definitely lots of different types of AI, and people believe a lot of different things about it. So we're going to talk about some common terms and then some challenges that we currently see in accounting, why we might want to use AI for accounting. Then we'll discuss my 6 steps implementation guide, followed by common pitfalls and governance essentials. And then we'll do a case study, and then we'll do a final wrap up and takeaways. Let's get into the nitty gritty. All right, before we jump into implementation, it's important that we take a moment to align on what we actually mean by AI. Many challenges with adoption stem from lack of a shared understanding. Team thinks AI is just automation or another dashboard, but AI is a spectrum. And where we are today is very different from where we started. So let's walk through the evolution. Start with a rule-based system. So that means simple logic engines that follow fixed instruction. Then came algorithms and statistical models. These help with analyzing past data. Next, we have machine learning, also known as ML. It emerged, allowing systems to learn patterns from data without explicitly being programmed. Now we're in the era of generative AI. This is where things get really interesting. Generative AI doesn't just analyze or predict, it creates. It can draft emails, stimulate business scenarios, generate synthetic data, or write code. It's included in tools like ChatGPT, Midjourney, and scenario generators like Whatify. Within this, we have large language models, or LLMs. These are trained on vast amount of language data and can produce coherent, context-aware responses. Think of these as your conversational co-pilots. LLMs help turn complex data into plain English insights. We also still heavily rely on predictive AI. This is the workhorse in finance. It's used for forecasting cash flow, identifying anomalies, or estimating risk. Predictive models are critical when you want AI to tell you what might happen next. Let's talk about where we're headed. Where we're going is agents and multi-agent systems. An agent is an AI that acts autonomously or on your behalf. It might schedule tasks, flag problems, or even initiate actions. Multi-agent systems go a step further. They imagine multiple, I want you to imagine multiple AI agents. Think of it like your accounting office, where everyone specializes in a certain area and they can collaborate across departments or alongside humans like digital teammates. But here's the key point. Moving from automation to AI means giving up a degree of control. Unlike RPAs, which are robotic process automation, which does exactly what it's told, AI systems learn, adapt, and sometimes surprise us. That shift is uncomfortable for many teams, and that's why education must come first. If your people don't understand what AI can do, its potential, its limits, and its risks, they can't meaningfully act and engage with it and adopt it confidently. That's why we start with this foundation. Before we talk about implementation, pilots, or platforms, we need a shared language of understanding. Only then can we make smart decisions about how to use AI effectively. Please take the time to either write down the link I've added for resources, or again, you can click on the resource link. Let's go deeper and look at the real shift. Yesterday's playbook was map a manual process and then encode it in software. Think of it like building a conveyor belt. Good at repeating one thing over and over again. But today, the emerging playbook is define a business objective. Give your agent a toolbox and a yardstick. Supervise, not specify. Now we're working with systems that can watch, adapt, and learn. Again, like your junior teammate. This is called agentic AI. Think of it not as a faster macro, but as your junior colleague. You give it a goal, like reduce idle cash or keep a customer happy, and it figures out the steps. Now let's look at a few examples. Looking at customer support. The agent reads the message, it looks up the order information, and then it makes a decision. It only loops in a human if it's needed. Next, we have the treasury desk. It watches payments and rates, it moves funds accordingly, and revises the plan on the fly. Then we have the lending desk. It pulls bank feeds, weighs risks, explains the results, reevaluates as new information arrives. Lastly, we have your personal CFO. It shifts cash, times payments, and alerts for market changes. The key, you don't hard code these rules in. The agent sees the big picture, it chooses the right tools or actions, it checks on its own results, and it learns for next time. For business leaders like yourself, this implementation means that you need to state the goal, not the steps, set guardrails around spend, risk, and human intervention, measure outcomes, not activity logs, and manage talent. You need to review, coach, and help it improve over time. The bottom line is agentic AI doesn't just speed up work, it takes on messy day-to-day decisions so your team can focus on the bigger picture. All right, let's pause, absorb what we just learned, and think about how does this apply to your business? Why don't you take some time to add some ideas to the chat? Or you can also start adding questions and questions you might have to the question box. Have any of you started using AI? And if so, what have you started with? Ooh, engagement letters. That's good. Words rather than numbers. Yes. Yes, I definitely use it a lot for like putting together emails. Brainstorming, asking ChatGPT, QuickBooks, yeah. Yeah, I know I was trying to figure I was put together, uh I was in Excel the other day and I had this super long formula, and for some reason it just wasn't working. I was trying to build out a big projections for a client, and I put in the formula I was trying to use into ChatGPT, and I asked it, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? So ChatGPT came back to me and said, this is what you're doing wrong. This is how you can fix it. This is what you should remember for next time. And then it gave me the formula that I could copy and paste in. And guess what? It worked. Training Michelle. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. I use it to help me build out a governance manual. I was doing some improvements on a governance manual. Great, guys. Lots of good answers there. All right. So let's discuss why this matters. As you can tell, accounting is transforming from manual compliance work to strategic insight. AI isn't here to replace accountants, it's here to enhance them. Think of it like moving from a flashlight to a floodlight. We can suddenly see more, faster, and with greater clarity. All right, I want you to think of your accounting office. How do you currently manage your processes, clients, training staff, and staying on top of laws and regulations? Well, last year, I dove into this with 50 plus interviews with accountants and fractional CFOs. And this is what we found. They were bogged down with time consuming manual processes. These were causing them to be reactive instead of proactive in their decision making. There's also many inconsistencies and errors. And it's also hard to stay on top of education for themselves, but not only that, keeping the bookkeepers educated. And we did more research and found out that this cost of manual processes and errors is estimated to be a $67.8 million issue in the US alone. What can AI do? AI is more than automation. Although, yes, it can automate tasks, research shows that AI is particularly good at, and actually better than humans at, looking at large quantities of numbers and recognizing trends and anomalies. This makes AI well suited for accounting, such as automating tasks like invoice processing and categorization, detecting anomalies, forecasting trends, such as CAT in their cash flow or budgeting, and improving compliance monitoring. Fiscal Eye, for example, uses AI to flag compliance risks before they become issues. This is where we begin to move from automation to augmentation and eventually to delegation. It's a mindset set shift. Remember, you're not telling the system what to do, you're asking the system what it sees. You're not just speeding up the process, you're opening up new possibilities. One of the most overlooked parts of AI adoption, though, is mindset shift. Traditional automation gives us comfort and control. We define the rules, we know exactly what happens in each step. But AI, especially predictive and generative AI, works differently. Instead of following a script, it learns patterns and generates outcomes based on those patterns. That means letting go of some control and shifting towards trust and oversight. This, however, does not mean turning a blind eye. It means setting clear goals instead of step by step instructions and designing for explainability so users understand why AI made those recommendations. Also, you need to establish guardrails for risk, cost, and human override. Again, remember, think of AI as your junior colleague. You wouldn't micromanage every task, but you would still supervise, coach, and review outcomes. That's how we need to approach the new era of decision support. Without this mindset shift, even the best tools will hit resistance. With it, you unlock AI's full value. All right, let's pause, absorb again. And I want to know, what worries you most about AI implementation? Add your thoughts to the chat. Great question, Hannah. How can we trust AI? Check it. Is it asked for how it's done? Ask for an audit trail. Yep, security bias. Oh, too small business to benefit from it. I would argue with that. Building your own software. Worry about falling behind the AI curve. Yep, definitely agree, Lucy. Ask for an audit trail. Again, I want you to think of AI as a tool. It's there to support you, not be you. Okay. Moving along to my 6-step implementation. After you aligned your team on what AI is and the opportunities it brings, is when the real work begins. This 6-step process is inspired by proven change management models, particularly Kotter's 8-step change model, but it's adapted specifically for implementing AI in accounting or similar operational functions. Let's look at step 1. Step 1, identify problems. Where are your pain points? Where are you losing time or accuracy? Are multiple people involved? Next, we're going to evaluate your data. Is your data digital, structured, and current? Are systems integrated? Is data easy to share? Next, assess the tools available. You don't need to build everything from scratch. First, ask, can this tool solve my actual problem? Next, we're going to pilot and iterate. Although it can seem tempting, it's not recommended to implement AI into everything to start. Choose one process and test AI on it. Remember, implementing AI is no different than managing any other change process. There'll be some resistance, fear, and anticipation. This is where you want upskill and support. People fear what they don't understand. Communication and transparency is key. Next, you're going to scale intentionally. Now that you've tested it, it's time to grow. Why the emphasis on change management? Because AI isn't just a technology upgrade. It's a mindset and a workflow shift. It involves new tools, new ways of thinking, and new level of trust in systems. Also, before you start, it's important to make sure that your implementation lead truly understands AI. If your internal capacity is limited, this is the time to bring on a fractional expert or a consultant or an advisor who can help guide everything from pilot planning to ethical considerations. In addition, here are some common pitfalls to avoid. Automating broken processes. Is the process you're automated working, or does it need to be evaluated and tweaked first? Ignoring ethics and data governance. Does your company have an AI governance framework, policy, procedures? Do you have regulatory compliance you need to uphold? Data privacy, collection, storage, and use policies? What about algorithmic bias that may be present? Or transparency and explainability? Do you do audit checks? Not involving the end user early enough can be detrimental to integrating AI into the process. And lastly, not seeking expert advice. We can't be experts at everything. It's okay to ask for help. Remember, stay human-centered and iterative. And lastly, security and privacy aren't afterthoughts. They're prerequisites. From explainable AI to running models locally, you'll need a governance strategy that aligns with your policies and the evolving legal landscape. Here are a few examples to keep top of mind. Also, I've put some resources in the resource section. Okay, now let's dive into the case study. and see the 6-step implementation strategy in action. Let me introduce you to Orange Accounting, a forward-thinking accounting firm that's actively exploring the future of finance. They're not new to technology. In fact, they pride themselves on being a tech-first firm with a dedicated IT department, regular participation in AI and fintech events, and deep communication to staying ahead of the curve. But what makes them stand out isn't just their innovation, it's their values. Orange Accounting balances tech-forward ambition with human-first culture. They believe that technology should empower people, not replace them. This mindset shaped every step of their AI implementation journey, and it's a big part of why it worked. Well, let's walk through what they did. Starting with step 1, identifying use cases. Orange Accounting didn't start with tools. They started with problems, their biggest pain point. They sat down with their team and mapped out where time was being lost, where bottlenecks were happening, and where mistakes were most common. These pain points stood out. Invoice process delays, compliance tracking inconsistencies, and fraud flags were being missed, not because the team didn't care, but because the volume of the transactions made it almost impossible to catch subtle patterns in time. Rather than assuming what needed fixing, Orange Accounting involved people closest to the work. They ran surveys and team interviews to identify routine, repetitive, or error-prone processes. The result? They didn't try to automate everything. They focused on where it would have the biggest impact. Step 2, evaluate the data. And this is a step too many teams rush through. Before implementing AI, Orange Accounting paused to audit their data environment. They wanted to know, is their data clean, structured, and digitally accessible? Do our systems talk to one another, or are we dealing with silos and exports? Keep in mind that clean data means different things to different use cases. Predictive models and generative models often require different types of structure, tagging, and formatting. For Orange Accounting, they answered mostly yes to all these questions. They had good systems in place, but they also discovered gaps in data consistency, especially across older workflows. But here's where Orange Accounting went further. They didn't just look at the numbers. They gathered internal sentiment data from teams, surveys, asking employees how they trusted their current systems, where they experienced friction, and how they felt about AI entering the picture. That insight became critical in shaping their change management plan. The outcome? Their financial data was mostly structured and digital, but they also uncovered opportunities to improve data hygiene and integration. In addition, it enabled to keep human feedback loop happening, which also increased their confidence. Step 3, choose the right tool. And this is where most organizations get distracted with the hype. Many organizations get excited about building their own custom AI without understanding cost, time, and knowledge associated with this. Orange Accounting made a deliberate decision not to build custom AI from scratch, or at least not right away. They knew that the implementation speed, system compatibility, and user adoption were more important than having something bespoke. Instead, they chose Fiscal Eye, a solution that checked most of their important boxes. For example, it integrated seamlessly with QuickBooks, it had real-time anomaly detection, and it had built-in compliance monitoring and explainability features. They weren't just chasing features, they were looking for a tool that aligned with their workflows, supported their data, and met their governance needs. The outcome? Fast setup, minimal disruption, and strong guardrails from day one. This meant their team could spend more time in learning how to work with AI and less time fighting to get it set up. The key takeaway? The best tool isn't always most powerful. It's the one your people will actually use. Step 4, pilot and iterate. This is where Orange Accounting began to put AI into practice. Remember, implementing AI is no different than managing any other change process. There will be some resistance, fear, and anticipation. By starting small, you can minimize this. Instead of rolling out AI across the entire organization, they started small, with a focused pilot on invoice reconciliation. This process was high volume, error-prone, and frustrating for the team. It was a perfect candidate for testing real impact. They didn't just implement and hope. It was measured and delivered, and they tracked time savings, error rates, and staff ease of use and confidence. The finance team was actively involved. They participated in weekly feedback loops, sharing what worked, what didn't, and proposing improvements to the workflow. The outcome, Orange Accounting saw clear early wins. Processes were faster, more accurate, and less frustrating. But more importantly, those wins built trust. Across departments, employees began seeing AI not as a threat, but as a helper partner. And that made the difference in moving forward. Step 5, upskill and manage change. This is where Accounting really stood out. They knew that even the best AI solutions would fail without the people behind it. So they made education and engagement a core part of their rollout. They launched a combination of training boot camps and bite-sized micro-learning modules, so team members could build confidence without being overwhelmed. But they didn't stop at training. They understood the real challenge happens when people feel included, not just informed. So they brought in change managers and HR to lead town halls, and they had clear messaging across roles, emphasizing AI as an assistant, not a replacement. And they formed advisory groups so that finance staff had a voice in how AI was being used going forward. The outcome? Employees didn't just accept the change, they helped shape it. They weren't casualties of the transition, they were co-creators in it. This step turned AI from being done to them to something that was being done with them. And that mindset shift was critical for long-term success. Step 6, scale intentionally, because successful pilots are just the beginning. After the invoice reconciliation pilot proved effective, Orange Accounting didn't rush to automate everything. They took a thoughtful, phased approach, scaling team by team, process by process. They expanded AI use into fraud monitoring first, followed by financial forecasting, and finally vendor onboarding. But what made this scale sustainable was how they managed it. They created an internal AI task force across functional teams, responsible for monitoring not just system performance, but also ethical risks, compliance, and user experience. They established clear feedback loop and made adjustments as needed, treating AI like a living system, not just a one-time installation. The results? As confidence grew, adoption followed. Teams that were initially skeptical started requesting AI support for their own workflows. The company culture shifted from fear to curiosity, from controls to collaboration. Orange Accounting wasn't just scaling tech, they were scaling trust. By focusing on people first and tech second, they ensured that AI adoption was strategic, sustainable, and embraced. These are their key takeaways. Orange Accounting is now positioned as a leader, not just because they adopted AI, but because they aligned it with their values and their people. So remember, when implementing AI, you need to start with a problem, evaluate your data, assess the tools available for fit, pilot small, train support, and scale intentionally based on trust. Lead with purpose, because successful AI is about empowered people, not just a powerful tool. Thank you, and any questions? I can make sure I gave 10 minutes so that people could I'm sure everybody has tons of questions. Okay, Q&A. Are there any AI tools to audit the accuracy of AI? You can ask for audit trails, and you can. We're actually using it right now. With one of my clients because they're testing out my physical eye stuff, and they're putting it into cloud, and they're also using ChatGPT to just kind of ask it how it works through those workflows, and making sure that it makes sense. So again, like when you're asking it to do something, so for example, if you asked it a question, hey, I'm curious as to when my company's going to run out of cash, and then I would probably ask it, how would you go about an analysis? So that would be the first question that I'd probably ask an AI agent. How are you going to go about doing that? And so I'd expect, it to say, okay, well, first I'm going to figure out what our burn rate is. Then I'm going to look at how much cash we have, and then I'm going to perform an analysis to determine how long we have, right? Or here is another example. This can be with how our regular what our income looks like. And so based off of what we've currently been having, I expect cash flow to run at this time, or we need to make X amount of sales in order to keep moving forward. So again, just asking it, checking it, being like, does this make sense? Doing the sanity check. All right. Question, how to decrease liability risk? Well, um, it's important to understand where your information is going. So there's different ways that you can go about doing this. So you could run a local LM on your localized computer as opposed to sending it out to a larger one where it's public. So you might send it out to public to say, how would I go about doing this? Or how would I instruct my LM to go about doing this? And then use your LM that's localized for you and only you to use, and put those instructions into it and tell it how to do it. So again, making sure that you're securing your data on your system. You could also use, I mentioned PII. So that's where we actually move information, like any private information, so that it's a little bit more secure. You could also look into federated AI, and that's where it's a whole nother story. So we won't get into federated AI, but if you're interested, I would look into that. All right. What is your opinion on AI in the future of CPA firms? How long until it makes them obsolete? Well, my fiscal eye is trying to make CFOs obsolete. Um, so, so it's definitely on its way. I think that it's a shift. Like I said, we're not replacing jobs, we're just changing the way we do things. So as CPAs, we need to be more strategic. Can AI make financial statements? Yes. But can QuickBooks make financial statements? Yes. Does it do a good job all the time? No, it definitely needs some human oversight. I know that dealing with some accounting and auditing firms, some auditing firms are actually using AI, and my research shows that using AI for audit is a great example. It can go through large sums of information. It can look at your general ledger and pull out those anomalies. Us as humans, we're going line by line through an Excel sheet. We're doing our tests if we're going in to do a review. AI can help 100%. And now you can actually work on strategy with your client instead of just telling them what they're doing wrong. What AI do you like to record a conversation with an in-person meeting to summarize conversation, then ultimately create a to-do list? Well, there's tons you can use. I don't have a specific one that I like. I'm yeah, there's lots out there that you can use. I know many CPA firms are currently outsourcing roles to virtual assistants, particularly in the Philippines. Do you see AI eventually replacing these VAs, or do you think it will enhance their efficiency and productivity? Um, at the right time, right now, I think it will enhance their efficiency and productivity. I definitely think there's lots of there's lots of AI companies out there trying to be your automated bookkeeper. Right now, I still think we need a lot of oversight. So I definitely think it will enhance at the present time. You mentioned using offline LM for security purposes. Do I have examples that I can recommend? I unfortunately do not, because I am not super tech based. But if you reach out to me, I can definitely get back to you. So my client Dragon Scale AI, they are building my fiscal eye company, and they are experts in AI. They actually built product for Apple and sold to Apple, as well as they built Apple's back end, or help build Apple's back end. So if you reach out to me, I can definitely help you answer those questions. Is fiscal AI an open or closed AI? It will be closed because I want it to be safe. Fiscal Eye does work for us in Canada. So Fiscal Eye, I am Canadian. It is an AI that I've created for Canada, actually for North America. So it does work in the US as well. But so what Fiscal Eye is I've utilized different agents. And so we have, say, your CRA agent that goes and scrapes the CRA site on a daily basis to make sure you're up to date on your CRA rules and regulations. You can pre-put in your company's policies and procedures around accounting, and it will follow those rules or ensure that you follow those rules. It highlights anomalies in your data, and then it tells you why they're potentially wrong, how you can fix them, and then it gives you the option if you actually want to fix them or not. It also is like conversations. You can actually ask it questions. So when I say that it's taking over that CFO role, 99.9% of businesses in Canada and the US cannot afford a full-time CFO. A lot of them are doing their own bookkeeping. So I'm sure you've probably walked into some of these organizations where you show up, their books are a complete mess, and you're going through line by line through a general ledger. What this is allowing you to do is it's allowing you to go in, use Fiscal Eye to help you clean it up really, really quickly. So now you can start providing that value added service to that client. It's also allowing your client to maybe make choices on their own. Hey, if you categorize it this way, you can take advantage of like strike credits. What should a company like Orange Accounting budget for their AI project showcased? That is a great question. So again, it depends on the size. When we're looking at Orange Accounting, um, you're probably looking at an annual budget of about $400,000. But remember, this is not a one-time investment. This is every single year you're investing that amount of money. It could be more depending on how tech forward your company is and how many people you need to involve, but it's not a one time. So if you're going to put in the budget, you're like, okay, we're going to allocate $500,000 for AI integration this year. We're going to integrate again the following year. Every single year, you're going to be allocating budget for that expense. Give me an example of how small one-person bookkeeping firm can use AI other than writing client communication. Well, you could use Fiscal Eye because it will serve a great purpose for you. Make that way you can take on more clients. You can add more value to your clients. I definitely, like I say, I use it if you're all by yourself, you have nobody to have that conversation with. You can have a conversation with AI, right? You have a conversation with ChatGPT, again, helping try to finish off that Excel formula. I was like, why is it not working? Why is it not working? Why is it not working? 5 seconds, and I had the answer utilizing ChatGPT. How do you explain how we're using AI safely and for the best for clients? Well, the thing is that AI is being used for everything. So, for example, you're writing a Word document, and AI is automatically coming in to make changes. Um, so, when it comes to safety, I would look again at how are you storing your data securely? What are your policies on sharing data? If you are running an AI, what do they align with your policies, governance policies, and data policies? Like you need to ask those questions. It's really important. And if you're not sure, don't share the information. Again, you can anonymize information. You can ask if you can run it localized on your computer only. Those are the questions that you really need to ask. And you need to make sure that when your client asks, you have those policies available. How would you suggest AI to be used for marketing and lead generation? Well, I use AI to pretty much write all of my LinkedIn. So I definitely use it a lot for that. I asked AI to help me. So we're hosting Web Summit in Vancouver. And I was like, hey, how do I advertise my company and get that out there? And so they created a plan. Okay, this week you can do this week you're going to do this week you're going to do that. For yeah, there's lead generation. There's a bunch of AI companies that are on like LinkedIn and those types of things that can help with lead generation. Again, you can ask AI to look at your LinkedIn profile, ask it to look at your website. Through one of my company's websites, and I was like, "Can you please help me out? Tell me how I can improve this?" and it gave me step-by-step instructions on how I can improve it. When I say AI, do I mean ChatGPT? When I say AI, I mean all those list of AI terms that I talked about earlier. So, yes, ChatGPT is AI, but ChatGPT is just one form of AI. When I'm talking about my company, Fiscal I, I'm talking about generative AI. I'm talking about agents and multi agent systems that I'm utilizing to build. Yes, Fiscal I is an AI tool that you can use to help you, help your clients. Yeah, I want to take the mystery out of finance. I think that too many people are left in the dark. I think us as CPAs are trying to stay on top of things. For example, I sit on the advisory board for Financial Executives International for their ESG committee, and the rules are constantly changing, and the cost, to do up a framework for yourself or for your client can be quite costly. What if we can reduce those costs so that it's not just the large companies that can afford to have those things done? And again, not taking your job away, helping you do it better. Can we use ChatGPT to create AI agent? Um, you can use ChatGPT to create different AI products within ChatGPT. So yes, as to an actual agent, I'm sorry, I'm not tech enough to answer that question. But if you reach out to me, I can ask my client. Any other questions? Ooh. What AI did you recommend for website review? You could honestly just use ChatGPT. I put my website into for my company Grow Out, and it told me exactly how I could change things to be more effective. Again, it's all in your prompts. So maybe research like what prompts you want to ask, get a really good understanding. If it's not giving you the answers that you want, ask it in a different way, clarify. The thing with AI is it needs to learn. It needs to learn how you want the information and the way you want it, and it's learning who you are. So often the tone might not be the tone that you want or the language that you want. Um, or it might be thinking that you've asked something completely different. Check, verify, re-ask a different prompt to try to dive into exactly what it's telling you or to let it know that it didn't answer it the way you were hoping for. All presenters tell themselves AI is not replacing jobs. Pretty obvious they will replace jobs. Well, it can't do everything. Like I said, AI is support. So when we talk about jobs, yeah, it's definitely, I'm not naive. Yeah, it's definitely gonna replace jobs. You don't need that person maybe to do the data entry. You don't need that person to go through to do those simple tasks, to write those emails. You don't need your admin assistant maybe. Um, but I think that it can't do everything at this time, and it definitely needs 100% human oversight. What do you think about building an AI agent for a niche industry and selling it for a monthly subscription? I think go for it, but do your research. Like I said in that example, I interviewed 50 accountants and CFOs. Yeah, I'm an accountant. Yeah, I'm a fractional CFO. Yes, I thought I knew what the problems were, but I wanted to make sure that what I think the problems are and what people are actually are people willing to pay for those problems is the second question, right? So at this time, fiscalized clients are CPAs, fractional CFOs. The eventually where we're headed. So it is actually a startup. Be told that's it. Connect with me after. But yeah, our end user will hopefully be any business. Feel free to connect with me Like I said, my name is Michelle Gordon. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an email. My email is michelle.gordon.cpa@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening.